Welcome back to the final instalment of my Timor-Leste series. Timor-Leste is the least visited Asian country, but over my 5 days in the country, I can't understand why more people don't come here. It's a vibrant culture with incredible sights to see, and it's located just to the east of the Indonesian archipelago and an hour's flight north of Darwin in Australia. Last time out, I visited unspoiled beaches, the Cristo Rice statue, took in amazing views over the capital city of Dili before sitting down with a sea view to a spectacular meal. Alright, so after a bit of lunch, I've headed right the way down here into central downtown Dili, where it is busy, but that's because in the background behind me here is the presidential palace. And this is in Timor-Leste, in Dili, known as a modern symbol of leadership. And unlike the older government palace, this one was built in 2009 and symbolises a strong relationship with China, who helped to build it. But it is beautiful and lovely surrounding gardens as well, and it's got modern aesthetics but mixed in with traditional Timorese architecture and design. So what an amazing place. It does actually serve as the workplace of the president and also his residence as well. Now, I don't know if I'm allowed to go in there, but given that most presidential palaces around the world you're not allowed, I haven't tried to walk in, but yeah, just through there is the presidential palace. Walking back to the car now to head to another fascinating landmark here in Dili, the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. And I know I always bang on about this, but it is baking hot. As I mentioned previously, they're in the middle of a bit of a heat wave here. So temperatures usually don't fluctuate too much. You know, usually it's between 25 degrees and 29 degrees, pretty much solidly all year round. Today is 34 degrees with an extra 10% humidity, so 85%, and you might just be able to see through there over the bonnet of Timmy the Triton to the clouds that are up in the mountains, and it's those clouds and that water that's lingering in the air that really does make this super hot. But it is a beautiful place. There we go. I think there is a service taking place, so I'm not going to go any further. But yeah, what a splendid place. Stunning. So there are some lunchtime prayers taking place at the moment. I always find churches and cathedrals to be really peaceful places, which sounds obvious, but yeah, they are lovely. So easily in here you'll be able to get at least 1,000 people. So I can imagine that on a Sunday it's absolutely packed to the rafters in there, and obviously I was keeping my voice down because I wanted to be respectful of those who are doing their lunchtime prayers. But yeah, what a cool place. Really modern, so only built 16 years ago. And yeah, it's beautiful, and it seems to be in use as well, which a lot of the churches in the UK aren't. It doesn't appear to be, unless it's a Sunday. So yeah, very nice. So this is the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, so obviously relating to the Virgin Mary. There you go. That is the cathedral here in Dili, Timor-Leste. Alright, so another 15 minutes or so down the road, I have arrived at the Museum Chega. And Chega is the Portuguese word for enough, because this particular museum is built in buildings that were used between 1975 and 1999 by the Indonesians to interrogate, torture and imprison Timorian people. So I've decided to come here because I think it's an important part of the getting to know this island and the history of the island, to really understand what happened all those years ago. In November 1975, Indonesia invades Timor-Leste as the world largely looks the other way. Australia's Prime Minister Malcolm Fraser is the first to recognise Jakarta's de facto annexation, but the UN condemns it and calls for an act of self-determination despite staged visits like this one from Indonesia's President Suharto. Suharto oversees a brutal regime of occupation away from the official cameras, fighting massacres, torture and starvation, killing as many as 200,000 people over the next 2 decades. In 1991, shocking footage emerges of the Santa Cruz massacre, where 100 people were slaughtered at a funeral procession in the capital. Rare footage of occupation resistance fighters like Zanana Gusmao surface. However, most hopes are decimated when he's captured in 1992, seen as a crushing blow to the occupation resistance. Atrocities continue to mount, but so does the groundswell for independence, which Timor-Leste successfully achieves in 2002.
Now, all around me are boards with lots of information on, and I'm not going to spend ages talking it through with you. What I'm going to do is read it myself and come back to you, but in essence, we should probably just take a very brief step back in time to understand a little bit about the history and independence of Timor-Leste, which gives a bit of a flavour for what came to happen here in this particular area. But Timor-Leste was colonised by Portugal in the 16th century, known as Portuguese Timor, and then it was invaded and occupied by Indonesia in 1975, which led to decades of conflict. A referendum for independence happened in '99 following loads of violence and an eventual UN peacekeeping mission, and then in 2002 on May the 20th Timor-Leste officially became independent from Indonesia. What happened here though, however, in the buildings that you can see just beyond that sign, is that this was used as a prison during the really awful war between 1975 and 1999, where hundreds and hundreds of Timorians were brought here, interrogated, tortured, and in some instances killed during the awful war of Timor, East Timor. So I'm going to take some time to have a read of these, and then I'll give you the lowdown afterwards. Wow, just some headline stats here. So the number of prisoners who experienced violence, 25,347. Prisoners who experienced torture was over 11,000. And the number of prisoners who experienced persecution was nearly 8,500. There was a total of 7,300 women prisoners tortured during this prison's time. And there were even children here as well. So child prisoners were the age of 12 to 17. And arbitrary detention, a total of nearly 1,500, of which 600 or so were tortured during the prison time. That is astonishing for a nation that only has a population of around 1.3 million. It's a significant proportion of people that were brought here and experienced some horrors in that building there. Now, in going through and reading some of the information here, you'll see the Plaza Hotel there. That is 2 doors down from the hotel that I'm staying in, and it said it was used as an interrogation centre in the early 1976 by the Indonesian military after the invasion, and continued until 1999. So for 23 years, 2 doors down from where I'm staying here in Dili, which is a really peaceful building which is actually dedicated to bringing prosperity and hope for the young generation of Timorians. But political prisoners were brought here and then interrogated, tortured, and in some instances, and it does say actually, where is it? Here we go. Prisoners were sometimes disappeared. Sometimes disappeared. Yeah, well, that unfortunately means that people were being killed. So again, when I'm laying in my bed tonight with the air conditioning going, not 2 doors down was an absolute hellscape for people for 23 years. It is amazing, really, how history can come to life like this. So something that I had mistaken, but that this is now bringing to life, is that there are multiple places across the island. You can see here there was the Mes Coram, SGI Post, Polder Dili, Flamboyant Hotel, and then also all of these other buildings here as well. So it appears that the Indonesians, when they invaded the island and had the coup d'etat, it appears that they used multiple locations across the island for interrogation, torture, and then jailing of people. And you actually do get some images of the jails here, and I can well imagine that way back in 1975 through to 1999, they would have been awful places to be. And actually, if you were going to be there for an extended period of time, it might actually be better that you weren't here at all. So I've been learning a little bit about the women and children who were prisoners here as well on the island in multiple locations, and essentially the women were tortured, persecuted, and suffered a lot of sexual violence, unfortunately. And a lot of the time it was because their family members were fighting alongside the resistance fighters in the jungle, and so they were captured and brought to the prison camps, tortured, all manner of horrible things happening to them, largely as a way to demoralize the fighters that were on the front line. Oftentimes as well, children were captured, detained, tortured as well, because either their mother or father had been captured as well. But again, another way to demoralize a fighting force is to target their family. And so many women, as we saw in the statistics, were unfortunately subject to some of the most horrendous experiences here. And I'm afraid you can probably tell by the look in this poor lady's eyes just how much trauma she'd been through. It really is quite shocking. Now, I'm not going to read this out, but this is some of the ways that they were tortured here. There's just some appalling examples of how people were treated, and then on the right hand side there are actually pictures of it happening, but I'm not going to show you that because I don't think that's appropriate. But here was a simplified process. You're effectively captured, detained, put to trial, and then killed, freed, or you go to jail. And you can tell here in the detainment process that this guy's been beaten quite badly. So yeah, and I can't imagine it would have been an expedited process. I'm sure it would have taken months, if not years. Horrendous. But there are some of the documents of processing the prisoners, and then over here as well, some of the graffitis in the prisons of the people who unfortunately had to spend their times there. And I think that one sums it up. Never die, we need freedom, which of course they did get when they became independent. Obviously there was a 3-year period between 1999 when the UN got involved and 2002 when Timor-Leste actually became independent. But yeah, well that was a brief history of this island and some of the shocking treatment that the indigenous people have experienced at the hand of the Indonesians. Now, I'm not casting any judgment at all because I'm not a scholar of history and I certainly wasn't here to experience it, but what I do know is that places like this, and in a small kind of way, this takes me back to when I visited Auschwitz in Poland, as well obviously a Nazi concentration camp. Any place that promotes the torture and sexual assault and the murder of people in the name of politics, for me is a disgrace. And there is a still image from the violence in 1996, this says. Shocking. And to wrap this section up, I can really understand why there are a lot of effigies of the Virgin Mary or God and Jesus and that kind of thing around the island, because back then when all of those horrendous things were happening, what else would you have other than hope and your faith? Because I think without those you have nothing, sadly. Right, so I'm back in the car now and I'm going to head to the government palace. But before I do, I think it is so important that when you visit countries, you really try and understand the history and what's happened and what's gone before to shape it to the way that it is today. I could easily have spent my time here in Timor-Leste by the beaches or up in the jungles, just enjoying the landscape and being ignorant to the things that have happened. But I think it makes me a better person, frankly, to understand these things, because I can empathise with some of the struggle, but it also makes me realise how lucky I was to be born in the UK. And whilst we have our challenges of our own and there is conflict in Europe and elsewhere in the world, fortunately it's not on my doorstep. So yeah, places like this are quite sobering, and I think crucial in telling the story of a nation, good and bad. Now, right in the centre of Dili is this incredible roundabout, and I actually stood on a roundabout at the moment, but it is a statue of Francisco Xavier do Amaral, who was inaugurated on the 20th of May 2017 as the president of Timor-Leste, and it literally stands on a roundabout in the centre of the city. And let's go inside and have a look. If I can, oh, I can't go inside and have a look. But there you go, another beautiful piece of history, with the flags flying around it. So given that that was 8 years ago, I wonder if he's still the president or not. Obviously we've been to the president's palace already today, well, stood outside the gate anyway. And then, yeah, seen this statue, but I wanted to stop because I've driven past it a few times and I thought, oh, that looks pretty cool. But could you imagine having one of those of Keir Starmer or Donald Trump on the middle of a roundabout, or Emmanuel Macron? Maybe there is one. If there is, let me know and I'll go and see it. Well, I feel very lucky and a bit like I'm walking out at Wembley, because I've just been allowed to come and have a look inside the National Stadium here in Dili, and look at that backdrop of mountains. But this is the International Stadium, usually where football is played, and also athletics, as you can tell by the running track here. But what a cool place. So right in the middle of Dili they have this amazing stadium, and I was told that the day that I leave at 7 o'clock at night it will be filled with football fans, because there's going to be a match between Bacau and Manu Fahi. So I'll have to Google that when I get home, because I don't know much about Timor-Leste or Timorian football. But what a cool place. I would have loved to have come in here when it was full of people. But yeah, that is the National Stadium here in Dili. Everyone here is so friendly. I've just literally had a bit of a scare, because I had somebody in an army van just turn up, pull up along the side of the road and beckon me to come over. So I got worried that I'd done something I shouldn't have done, maybe going in the National Stadium. But he came over because he just wanted to say hello. It's not often they see tourists, and he saw me with a camera and just wanted to know a little bit more about where I was going. I did ask him for a photo or to be on camera, but he said no. He didn't speak much English, I didn't speak much Portuguese, but he basically said I can't when I'm in uniform. So he did give me his number and say give me a shout and we can go for a beer. So how nice is that? I mean, just think about it where you live. Would the National Guard or the police pull over and then invite you for a beer? Probably not. Okay, so then after a hairy crossing of that road there, we're here at the Government Palace, and what a spectacular building it is. It's not quite as modern as the presidential palace, which was built in 2009, but it is still an absolutely beautiful place, and it played a really significant role, a central role during Timor-Leste's pretty turbulent history, to be honest. So during the Portuguese colonial rule, it was built here in central Dili, and it served as an administration centre at the time. And then during the Indonesian occupation between 75 and 99, it was used also by them, by the Indonesian authorities. But after Timor-Leste got independence in 2002, it became the official government palace, and still to this day is used by the president when he's not at his palace for official government work, and of course then for the rest of the government as well. So it is gated off, so unfortunately I can't go in, but it's pretty awesome. There's quite a nice view back through with the trees in the front, but This place, really, I was reading about it, you know, it's more than just a government building. It sort of is a symbol of Timor-Leste's independence. You know, it hosts dignitaries and obviously governmental meetings and the like, but actually it's more than that to the local people here. This is the sign of their independence and such a crucial part of their history. So fantastic to see it. Well, this is nice to see on the other side of the road, right on the seafront. We have this this fish basically, and I don't speak any of the local language, but I can tell the word plastic, and it will be a case of saying, put your plastic bottles in here and not on the beach or in the ocean, and preserve the local habitat. So that's pretty cool. So they're already making an effort to reduce the plastic pollution that can be seen on the beaches. But I'm going to go and have a little walk now down the seafront and see what there is to see. Well, there you go. That is the seafront here with the port, and it smells very portish, fishy. And then the view back down the promenade, which is absolutely lovely. People out enjoying it, and there's a really nice breeze. Oh, that breeze really takes the edge off. But I'm going to head back to the car now. I'm probably actually going to take the car back. I've got it for the whole day, but I've done most of the things I wanted to see in Dili, so going to take it back, head back to the hotel, and probably have a shower because I am hot and sweaty after 6-7 hours out and about on the road. But it's been good fun. Enjoyed it. Hope you have too. If you have, please like, comment and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. I've absolutely no idea what's going on, but I would guess that the president's just turned up